Greatness. Greatness. Bow, bow, bow. Greatness.
There are 2 times to be great, when you feel like it and when you don't. Welcome to the Renewing the Mind podcast. I'm your host, Pastor Tyler Sanchez. With me is my dad, Dr. Raul Sanchez. How you doing, Dad?
Feeling amazing. Like back in the day at NDSU, we had a saying in our locker room and said, those who stay will play. Those who play will be champions. Once a champion, always a champion, baby. Let's go.
And there's the ring kiss. On this podcast, we teach you how to flip your mindset by talking through how you renew your perspective, move towards uncertainty, and find what's awesome about that in every situation. If you missed last week's podcast, head over to wherever you consume podcasts on, whatever platform that may be, and check out our latest episode. Or you can head over to YouTube and watch the video version of this podcast. Last week, we did Resilient Kids Part 2 in our Resilient Kids series, and it was Growth Through Gross. We talked about embrace ugly, protect your identity. We finished with you versus you, self-talk. Pretty powerful episode, I think.
Yeah.
Anything you want to say on that?
The most important piece is remember the inter versus intra. Inter is me versus you. I'll get caught up in the comparison trap. Intra, I-N-T-R-A, is me versus me. I can look at where I was, monitor, repeat, grow all day.
Before we jump into today's content, we got a segment we like to call a WHAT.
What?
WHAT is an acronym standing for What's Awesome About That? And basically it's just asking the question, what's awesome about that in every situation, whether good or bad, finding the positive in that.
It's hard work, but it's so rewarding.
Yeah, I think last week when you talked about filing every incident with an emotion, that's even more powerful than what is. So you can file it with a positive emotion,
correct,
whether it was bad or good.
Correct.
Okay, I got the WHAT moment this week.
Can y'all say it's about time?
No, listen, see,
Slacking.
I always let you have.
Always behind.
Yeah. Anyways,
letting dad carry the load. I'm like the Clydesdale. You're just like that little horse that like walks beside the like coach.
I ride in the coach.
Yeah, that's facts.
Yeah,
that's
but listen,
facts.
what's more fun?
I'm the horse. You just go for the ride.
What's
that's
more
correct.
fun? No one wants to go
getting buff,
yeah.
carrying the load. That's more fun.
No. People pay not to
strap it up.
No, people pay not to pull the trailer. They pay to sit in the trailer.
That's because they can't pull the trailer. Think about horsepower.
Well, okay,
big horses.
Let me pull the trailer today.
Okay.
I got a WHAT moment.
I got you.
So I've been focusing on working out, and we started trying to get four times a week, and that lasted, and then COVID hit, and so kind of put a wrench in going to the gym, doing CrossFit and all that. And so
all the gyms closed.
And so I really started trying to focus on just my diet and cutting calories and eating appropriately. And so through that, it was an easy time to focus on that because restaurants aren't open. People can't invite you over to their house. You can't go out to eat and grab stuff like you could. I mean, it was takeout. It was an easier way to cook at home and then to focus on the food side of it. So what's awesome about the whole situation is through that, as of yesterday, I was down 26 pounds.
Let's go.
So, yeah. So it's an awesome situation about...
all in the kitchen.
All in the kitchen. And, I've heard it forever. You've told me it, everything you look up at 60-30, 70-30, 60-40. What you eat versus what you do. And so I have no issue or no struggle with going to the gym, working out. Like, that's easy for me. I love doing it. It's fun. I just like doing that. And then on the way home, stopping by Pizza Ranch. So doing both. I like
or
both.
Go kill pizza.
Do that. So
like as a reward.
Yeah. So through this thing, I've cut my calories to a point where I'm really not supposed to be working out through this process. And so it's crazy. It's like, it's the easier thing to do
right now.
Well, and just in general, when I work out, that's more, there's more effort put towards that. Change clothes, drive to the gym, recover from the gym, you're sore. All you have to do is eat better, and you're already eating anyways. You already eat 3 meals a day.
Correct.
So instead of eating 3 meals that are crap, just eat 3 meals that are healthier. It's less effort.
Right.
But it's harder.
But what was so difficult about it in the first place? Like, why did people get stuck with that?
It don't taste good.
Yeah.
Like, you're trying to tell me to sit down and eat a salad with a little bit of meat, or like I can just have pizza.
Yes.
It's a no-brainer.
Yeah.
Steamed broccoli versus French fries. I mean, come on.
Yeah. So what carries your motivation? That is definitely a WHAT moment. Like, there's no gym. So now you turned all your motivation to the kitchen and it's paying off.
Yeah.
What's the motivation that keeps you rolling right now?
Results.
Perfect.
So it's just to think about that. I did working out for so long, 3 months, and didn't focus on my diet at all
Right.
and lost no weight. That was a lot of effort. Waking up in the morning, 5 a.m., driving, working. So, I mean, all that. Now I sleep in.
That's because your diet
And
hadn't changed.
yeah,
Right.
because I didn't change my diet.
Right.
And if I could have done both, I would have saw results. But it was hard to change multiple things at once.
Right.
So focused on my food, losing weight, continuing on it. I feel better. I haven't had my heartburn medicine in a month. I haven't took a Tums. I usually took a couple Tums a day. I mean, let's be honest.
Yeah.
I haven't took a Tums in 4 weeks. I mean,
See, we thought that was kind of a little bit genetic because like Jerry has that,
yeah,
Stacy has that, you have that. So I just thought that was the fish line.
Nothing.
Right. So
There's
that's
been
really
moments
diet.
where like I would eat a ton for dinner, and be like, I feel my stomach hurts, or I ate too much. Nothing. It's been, so the feeling has been amazing. So, yeah, that's my what moment.
That's awesome. And and you know what's awesome about that is that ties in perfectly to our day today because you're still rolling because of results.
Yep.
So that's what we're going to tie into today.
Perfect. So today's content is part 3, raising resilient kids, and it's grow with gas. So go fast in this process. Our 3 points today is fail fast, master the process, and win the day. You want to hop into point number 1?
Yeah.
Fail fast.
So fail fast comes from a book. It's old, but it's called The Talent Code. Daniel Cole, he's the one that kind of broke, a research scientist, journalist, kind of came up with that idea that all these elite greats, like to be the elite person in your field, it takes 10,000 hours. Roughly, okay? There's some prodigy piece to that, like, 2-year-olds who play pianos. There is some pieces or skills or natural inclination for piano or sports or something. But for the most part, the big pieces from his book is talent is grown. Just like you grow a watermelon in the backyard, talent is grown. And that's our whole process. That's the whole issue with resilient. If you look on the resilient mugs, that's a rubber ball. All those ropes around it are rubber bands. The idea is every time I tried and I didn't get it, I'm going to put a rubber band around it. Every time I try, rubber band. Every time I try, rubber band, rubber band, rubber band. Pretty soon you realize that you failed so much that when you fall, you feel nothing. You bounce back. And this is why Jordan says, I take those shots all day, every day, and I'll do it again because I've failed so much, it doesn't hurt me. It doesn't get to me, right? So that's our fail fast concept is push through the failure, stack your failures, and fail so fast that you don't log any negativity in that process, okay? So how does that happen? First of all, let's talk about everybody hears of muscle memory all the time. Literally, it's not muscles. The fact is it's neurons, okay? The concept of neurons firing together, they crack. So if you take a look at my hand, it's like a neuron. You got your little nucleus here. You got these finger things called the dendrites. You have this long thing called the axon. The axon travels the energy, okay? This thing is coated with a thing called myelin sheath, which is like a blanket. It's insulation. And every time I do a muscle movement, I fire a neuron. The more times I do it, it fires and fires and fires and fires. And pretty soon it fires so much that it cracks. And this is why fish oil is so important. Fish oil or omega-3s like salmon, tuna, mackerel, sardines. Okay.
Yuck. It's disgusting.
Okay. That actually gets coated with myelin sheath, and myelin sheath is healed. Those cracks are healed and it's recovered through omega-3s, fish oil. Now, the whole idea is the faster I fire, I burn this thing out. It's going to call another one. It's going to fire another one called sprouting. So now there's 2 neurons. And now they fire together. And then there's 2, then there's 4, and then there's 8. And pretty soon you're trying to get one neuron to master a process. Like for me, the guitar, honestly, that sucks. Okay. But I can't do it long enough time-wise. I always say I don't have time, but I can't allocate time yet to the guitar until these other pieces are down. But every time I do it, I have actually the non-resilient form toward my guitar. I try it here and there, and then I get frustrated. I'm like, okay, I'll wait next Christmas, next break, next holiday. And I practice on the holidays. That's it. So that system of me trying to allocate neuronal memory or muscle memory is a bad system. Now, if you look at a fail-fast system, let's say I played guitar all the time, and let's get calluses or something. I take a small break. I come back, process again. Here's the end result. So like if I tried guitar once or twice in a break, a holiday, and I don't do it again for the next break, my brain logs all that data in one day as one attempt. So I tried 6 times, frustrated, but that day I tried once. Now it looks at all the data packets And it's going like, oh, there's this much data for that day. There's not another day for 4 months. And then there's this much data. So I never stress myself out enough to crack the neurons to call in and allocate more neurons and more omega-3s to have what's called a constellation of neurons. So now we have a network that fires together. That network is more powerful. Like if you and I are in a shoveling contest and it's me versus you, Bryce, and Nate, I'm just saying I'd probably still win. But in a real world competition, technically 3 dudes could beat one.
Yeah.
You get what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So you want a team. So your team is going to beat an individual. So failing fast is what we have to do to get our brain to work for us. The talent code talks about some of that data, but since then it's about a 10-year-old book, maybe 8 years old. But since then, the data is even more positive toward the neuronal firing and how fast you go. So if you take a look at us, like all of us, I've taught you guys all how to ride a bike by age 3. And every one of you learned the same exact day. Okay? Why? Every time you wiped out, I would love on you, put you back on the bike, right? A typical situation is, if we talk about just bike riding, typical situation, kid falls down, gets an owie, you go inside, put a Band-Aid on it, you give him like sugar cereal, worst thing in the world. And then the kid's like high sugar. Coming off that, he's already feeling lonely, already feeling depleted, already feeling like life's not good. And you're trying to put him on a bike and he goes, well, last time on the bike, like, no, don't you see my owie? And so we punt that, we push away from it. And there's not another opportunity for another sunny day. So in a 2-week period, that kid probably has 2 tries of riding the bike. So the brain has no data to stress any part of the brain out to push more neuronal blood flow for that area. Okay. So that's a fail slow. Now, if you take a look at us, everybody learned in 1 hour because we push attempts. And the process is this. So I found out really quickly, like the number one failure on a bike is overcorrection. Think about Valencia, right? So she learned at 3 and she's a tiny 3. She's a peanut. So she's on her bike and she's looking around and she's like, Daddy, a bunny. And she's looking over here and then something happens and then she overcorrects and then she's down. Then every single time I saw kids overcorrecting. So I'd have this thing called the beach towel process where I just grab a long beach towel, I wrap it up, right? And then I twist it around like a big fat, like a cellar rope, big fat, boating rope or something. And I come around her waist and I tie it and then I twist it like a corkscrew until it's super tight. Now I'm my daughter's rudder. So she's pedaling and I'm jogging behind her. You got to be a little bit in shape and you got to jog behind her as she's pedaling. And then what happens is she starts to overcorrect one way. I counterbalance her and just enough to where her body feels scary and then she'll correct. And then she's cruising and she's looking over here and I counterbalance her again and then she'll correct. And she just starts doing this and I'm jogging the whole way. Now they still fail. They still overcorrect and they get tied up and they typically for you guys, the pedal would scratch your leg and you got some blood or something. What I do is I don't run inside. I'll call Stacy or whoever's around and say, hey, can you go to Band-Aid and some, and then we'll bring juice out. So we'll kind of stay on the bike. The rescue team comes to us. We rescue, put a Band-Aid, whatever, stay on task, stay on top, and you head back in and you're on the bike again. And before you know it, like everybody learned in an hour, like within an hour. And the reason is you fail fast. Now, people ask me this all the time. Well, what if your kid cries and you have to go inside? Okay, go inside. But then what happens when they don't want to get on the bike? Okay, so now you got to figure out really quickly how we can go finish back on a win. And how you go back and finish on a win is you just try to say something like, hey, you know what? Now here's where you can incentivize. Like, I bet you if we try again and you can ride from here to that black truck, then we'll go do something fun. And when you incentivize, try to incentivize activity. Try to incentivize cooperation, like let's go to the park. Try not to incentivize like we're going to go eat Dairy Queen. We're going to go get ice cream because it's just the wrong system. You can, but it's not as good. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
This fail fast process is now we break down fear, we break down stress, we prescribe adversity, we push through pain, literally, and we actually can use an incentive reward. And there's nothing better than when, and this happens to everybody, at some point you loosen the towel. At some point, you let the towel go and I'm riding, holding on to the bike seat. And there's nothing better than holding on to the bike seat and then jogging behind your kid and then jogging next to your kid. And then you're looking at your kid and you're like, hey, honey, you're doing amazing. And they go, ah, and they start to panic a little bit. And then they just like, they get that they got it. And then they just like take off flying. That's called the fail fast process.
I like it. Yeah. Last night, me and Stella were coloring and she has this art book that she like teaches you like 15 steps on how to draw an animal. So you do the first one as a circle, then the second one is the eyes, then, you know, you follow the steps. And so what she was doing is she was looking at the first picture and the end picture, and she was trying to make one thing and one step process that connected the first and the last one. And so she was just messing it up like crazy. So we sat down. So I walked her through that process of like, hey, you have to go this step, this step, this step. And that feeling of like she finally got it. She got done with the process, and she was like, I did it. I did. And before that, she was crying. And
Yeah.
so, man, that was a great feeling for her to, you know, accomplish something that she was failing at before. But she closed the book and was like, I'm done. And
Yeah.
so I felt that I knew we were talking about this, but I didn't put the two and two together. So I was like, no, you're not going to be done. Why are you done? You know, she's
Right.
like, well, I didn't do it right. It doesn't look the same.
Correct.
And so we opened it back up. She drew a couple, which goes to our third point, finish on a win. But
Valencia loves these gymnastics videos, especially like the documentaries of, you know, the gymnastics girls, you know, who went from like nothing to greatness. And you can watch this over and over where they try and fail. And, you know, they cut scenes. So she just tries and fails and tries and fails. And you see this repetitive thing. A lot of times if I'm there, I'm pause it. And I'm like, hey, quick question. How many times do you think she tried? And she'll go like 10. 10 in an hour. That's what I add. 10 in an hour, 10 in a day, 10 in a month. And then she thinks about it, probably 10 in an hour. How many days of 10 in an hour? And then you start to see her head click. And then she's like, wow, how old was she? How long do you think it took? And then you can extend that process of like, it's going to be a climb.
yeah, because as adults, we get that, but we don't usually communicate that to the kids.
You
And
don't
that's the
know.
first thing
Correct.
that they understand.
And
it feels I failed, so I'm a failure.
Yes. And every kid does exactly what Stella does. This is going to look amazing. And then it didn't look like I thought it was going to look. Oh, this is over.
Yep.
And we'll do a food show, like Picky Eater show. But this is the same thing on food. Like, remember, Terrence used to order, you know, chicken strips. And if it didn't look right, you know, he'd be like, these aren't chicken strips.
Yep.
Just because it looked different, you know. And then we'd break it open and say, look, buddy, it's the same. And then he'd be fine. You know, he was super visual.
Yep.
Okay. So
All right, number two,
number
master
two.
the process.
All right. So mastering the process. So this is, we all talk about like, hey, you got to be you have to have the love of the game. You got to like, you know, be a student of the game. You got to master the process, you know. I don't remember if it was the Washington who was it? Washington basketball team. They had a chant every time they shot a free throw. The Wizards, that's what it was. Where they'd be like, you know, trust the process, right? And so everybody gets it, but what does it look like? Okay, so the concept for me is a concept called toughening or a concept called hardening. And these are the process of like how you take a plant from an indoor plant to make it become an outdoor plant, or how you take a tree that's been started in a greenhouse. How do you prepare that thing to handle the you know, unforeseen adversity outside? That process is called hardening off. You have to harden off the roots so it can withstand that resilient training outside. So take a look at a plant. Like, you can't just take a plant, uproot it from inside, which is a controlled environment where everything's under control. That plant's 100% in control, and it expects like on clockwork, like when it feeds and when it gets sun and when all those pieces. How does it move out? And the idea is you have to prescribe adversity. It's our job to take that plant and say, okay, I have to toughen you. I have to harden you to prepare you for outdoors. Do you get that? Okay, so what's that process? Well, you can Google it. It's a long process of multiple steps. But the short story is this. You take a half a day and you put it outside in the sun so it knows how to handle heat. It can withstand the heat, okay? And then you take care of it for a couple days, and then you put it outside under absolute rain, and you soak the crap out of it for half a day. And there's formulas, a couple hours, and then you bring it back in. And then like you put it out there again, and you don't feed it for a day. It goes no rain, no attention, put it in the darkness. And then the last thing they do, because it's multiple pieces at once, the last thing they do to harden it is they put it outside for a night. And they watch the weather so it doesn't get too bad, because I didn't know this, but darkness like doesn't do well for plants. Plants get spooked. And so now it's dark, it's cold, and especially if it's windy, they have to monitor all those variables. So that way this thing isn't getting hardened by all the variables at once. It's actually prescribed. So when I read that, I remember thinking practice. So, right. So like in practice, they'd put us in inside hole as running backs and make us face linebackers. Then they put us in skelly, and then we do passing drills and make us face the defensive backs. And you're turning this way looking for a ball and just get wrecked in the back. And it sucks because you know you're going to get hit, but you know, you only play if you can hang on to the ball. So I think about that with coaches, you know, and then we do half team. like inside line and linemen, and then we do full team. So now I can get hit from everywhere. It's kind of a cool concept. And everything we do, we break that stuff down. So think about a kid, you're teaching them how to make eggs. You don't want them getting all slimy and, with the eggs. So you just give them a whisk and they're just making the egg. They're just whisking the egg. Like you just start them in a process and then you add to that process, So hardening off is the way we master the process of prescribing adversity. Okay. So now back to the bike. How do you prescribe adversity on a bike? Well, we just start pedaling and I'm actually only making her steer because I'm correcting her without her realizing that I'm balancing her. I'm her rudder. So she's got a little bit of, tension. She's not carrying the full load, but she's carrying a little bit. Okay. Once she has that, I loosen the grip and I let her fall a little bit. Half the time, she'd fall so far that I'd literally have to lift her up and reset her. Okay. Because she's just watching around just all over the place. She's not focused. But when you can get their muscles and everything to coordinate together, all the individual stresses on the outside of pedaling, steering, coordinating their legs, not bailing. Sometimes we never had a kid like this, but a lot of kids, when they go to crash, they just throw their hands up and the handlebars and then they actually may fall over. That kid's a little bit different. So you have to actually look at your kid and be like, okay, I think this is how he's going to fall. So you try to prepare that against that. And then you let the falls be minimal. First few falls are minimal, After a kid's pedaling and riding by themselves, they're going to have a wipeout. They're going to come in and scrape their leg and you have to love them on. But here's the process. Like that hardening off thing is taking adversity in small doses and we prescribe it to our kid. Like what parent raises their hand and says, I want to prescribe adversity to my child. Nobody does that. That's not how we do it. How we do it is we protect. A bully on the playground. We're like, oh, what's that dad's name? I'm
gonna call him.
I'm gonna call him.
Yep.
My kid didn't get like the top spot. Well, that's because the coach is, the coach that's has favorites. I'm gonna call that coach. I'm gonna let him know what I think. That's not protecting your kid is not prescribing any stress or adversity. And then they get out of life at 18, like a plant, and they just throw into the wolves.
Well, and in that process, you're building the process of you protecting them and enabling them for years to come.
Yes.
And on the opposite, we're trying to build a process of resilience. And by doing that, you're building the process of the opposite of that.
Yeah.
Which is more detrimental to them and to you as a parent, because then you're stuck in that role forever.
That's why
for a long time.
That's like why the day y'all move out, that's why I turn your room into like a knitting room or something. Like
the day, the hour, the minute.
Wait, what? Bruh, you ain't got a room?
I graduated. Listen,
let me get you that Motel 8. Hey, I got a number for you.
We got married, and the next morning I asked if you were going to pay for my breakfast, and you said, no, you're a married man. It wasn't even 24 hours.
Facts.
I think with the master of the process, one thing I try to instill in Stella is to feel to be okay in the uncomfortable. Our pillars move towards uncertainty.
Yes.
But I want her to it's 1 and 2 for me go together, because I want her to master the process and be so comfortable with failing and being uncomfortable and being able to move for like fear, I can't do it, to doing it quickly and multiple times, so that she's okay and comfortable with feeling awkward, with feeling I don't want to try it, but I did try it. Like that whole thing, that master the process has to be also fast. I mean, they go together.
Yes.
So it's just built up and built up. I think about when you were talking about the failing fast, I think about like painting a wall. When you put a first coat on paint, you're supposed to let it harden, come back, put another coat on.
Correct.
Like think about if you put 4 coats on a wall over a year, rather than you put 4 coats on a wall 4 days in a row.
Right.
1 coat, wait, 1 coat, wait. That's the process you're supposed to do with stuff like that.
Correct.
And that's the same thing in our life. It's like, man, if you put, you're painting your living room, you did 1 coat, you wait 4 months, you do another coat, you wait 4 months. It's not the process. There's dirt in between there.
Correct.
You got the wear and tear. You
chips
got the
in the
chips
wall.
in the wall. But you take 4 days, put 1 coat for 4 days. That wall is built for a while. I mean, that's gonna last. You're not going to have to paint that for a long time.
Yeah.
Like that's the same process in our life. We try to do things once every 4 months, and then we're like, oh man. And then we go back to last week where that's now our identity. Now we've built the process of learning to own that failure and not move towards uncertainty.
Yes.
To be fearful. Now we're building the process of what we're trying to not do.
Yes. And mastering the process is something then my goal is like when I pull away from Valencia in anything, she knows that process. So our process of the bike. Okay, so dad's on, dad's controlling. Dad pulls back. I'm within an arm reach. I can catch her. She falls. Remember last time we talked about validate first. So I'm not going to take her in, like act like we're going to the ER.
Nurture
but I'm
first.
going to pick her up. I'm going to nurture first. I know, honey, the bike's hard. I know you got some blood. Mommy's going to bring, a napkin. We're going to take care of you. And then here's the piece. I have to keep controlling her mindset. I'm like, you're going so fast. I'm fast, dude. I can beat everybody in the family.
That's that WAP moment.
But man, I have to run fast to catch you, honey. And then she'll be like, I was really going fast, wasn't I?
Yep.
And then you just click back in. You're back on the bike. You put the Band-Aid on her. You give her a kiss. You're a Sanchez. Let's keep going. You got this. And then boom, she's back in. Because she's been hardened. She's been toughened. And we go through a process. She gets it. The only thing she's been successful with a lot of physical things, sports-wise, that she expects it to come now. So like we're going through dance. She's got my 2 left feet. Like
It's tough.
Literally, it's tough. Like, plus I don't know how to teach her, so we're breaking it down and trying to work her through the steps.
I mean, mistake number 1 is you're teaching her dance.
Correct. Facts. Like, can I get some help? Hey, anybody's a dance coach? Like, hit me up.
Oh,
like,
that's
yeah,
bad.
we'll hire you.
One of the things I try to do that I like to do is I like to foresee what's going to happen.
Yeah.
And so that's one thing that's really helped Stella is me try to tell her like, hey, we're going to try this. You're probably gonna fail. You're going to crash. You might even get hurt. Like rather than her crashing, like you told me I was going to ride a bike, or you told me that, and like, try to get all of that up front. Like even with our routine, even from Stella being a young age, we're like, hey, you're going to go to daycare.
Yeah,
this is their name. There's going to be a dog there. Like try to so that disappointment doesn't happen because her reality is not something that's not realistic.
Right.
Trying to make that more realistic, so then when your reality and expectations don't match up, there's not that disappointment.
Correct.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Cool. Number 3, close this out. Win the day.
All right. Win the day. I want you to focus on win the show. 10% rule. The 10% rule is this. When you do any activity, food, it doesn't matter, dance, barbecue, you go to a neighbor's house, and you have a little bonfire with s'mores. Here's the concept. If I asked you a question and said, hey, was it fun? Would you go again? How you make that decision is literally the last thing. You look at the very last thing you did. And if that last thing was positive, if it finished on a high note, you'll override the rest of the day and be like, yeah, it was pretty dope. However, the 10% rule works against you. If the last thing of your day sucked, you're 10% less likely to go again. If the last thing was positive, you have a 10% more likely chance to do it again. So how do we go fight against a kid who doesn't want to do dance or doesn't want to play guitar, or doesn't want to do their homework, doesn't want to try on the bike again because they scuffed their knee up? You have to make sure you win the day. And how you win the day is before you put the bike away, before you put away the guitar, before you put away dance lesson, you have to do something fun. You have to finish on a win. And how we do that in our house is, we put a link to that video where when Stella stays at our house, we always like plan the day. And when she starts to go, I don't know, we start yelling, hey, 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 4 times. It's like, hey, 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 hey. And we build this energy. And reason we build that energy is because she'll start saying, well, I don't know, guys. I just don't. And you start doing that and she starts to look and you can see her heart rate go and she starts to get excited. And that's just what we've done with the kids. That's what we've done with Valencia. And so what you're trying to do is you're trying to keep a positive vibe so that even in the midst of where it sucks or it's tight or it's tough, like there's a win in there and you keep it positive. Now, the last piece is once you have an outstanding event that we're finished really well. So like if Valencia tries out a dance and makes a team, if she tries out a dance and she did some new move that she couldn't do, whether she makes a team or doesn't, we'll probably finish with a victory candle. A victory candle for us is an outstanding attempt, an outstanding try, an outstanding win. And so our victory candles, we have dinner by candlelight. We have big candelabra. We light a candle. And the whole entire dinner, we just have candlelight, which sparks all kinds of conversations like, Dad, in the 80s, did you have light?
Yeah. Did you ride a horse to school and back?
Yeah. Like, yes. Yeah. Okay. So those 2 positive things. So win the day, you have to finish with the 10% rule. We have to finish that positively. So in any strife, any negativity, try to come in with positive energy. Because as you're validating, as you're nurturing, if you have that thing, you're like, okay, so fine, I'll get you a Band-Aid. That energy isn't positive. That energy is negative. And she's going to feel like a failure. She's going to feel like she disappointed daddy. And she's not going to want to do it again. So you have to come with that positivity. You have to come with that love. You have to come with that nurturance. And it has to be positive. Like, oh, yeah, man, I'm sorry that hurts. Sometimes a bite can hurt and scratch. You got a little bit of blood there. We're going to fix it up. But guess what? You were so fast. Look at me. I'm sweating. I got sweat dripping off my face because I have to go so fast to keep up with you. And all of a sudden her face is positive. Okay. So win the day is finish on a positive note. Now, people say this all the time, but what if I can't get her back on the bike? What if I can't get her attempt again? Well, then incentivize it. Remember, you don't pay her first, you pay her after. And sometimes there's a negotiation process to get her to incentivize. But look, I will gladly pay for some activity to have a win because I asked you, like, you've tried diets before, you've tried things before. Why is this one working? And you said, the results. If I can get Stella or Valencia or Terrence or Tavian or Tyler when you were little, if I can get you to have personal results, I don't have to say another word because you'll come to me and be like, hey, let's try fishing again. Hey, let's go ride again. Do you get what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And that situation, if you finish with a personal win, you now have an ROI, a return on investment of your own hard work. And there's no better reward than that payoff of hard work, which is your own return on investment, where you just go, man, I did that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because now you're building that process, not just placing that process on her life, but now she's owning that process for themselves.
Yes. And now she has the idea that the rubber bands aren't the big deal. The rubber bands are just part of the process. So I can bounce back higher now because I'm protected by my failures. Now she doesn't say that, but she feels it. Yep. Like, man, I did great today. And that's what we want because they walk around bragging like, hey, look what I did. Look what happened. Right.
Yeah. Two things I thought about. Number one, every person who ever has played basketball ever in their life on any level, when you leave the court, you have to leave with a
3-ball.
Yeah, a make. You can't leave the court without a make.
Always.
And it has to be, whether it's a layup or not, you shoot 4 or 5 threes, finally go just do a layup so you can get off the court.
I have to hit that last 3.
Yeah. And then the last one, the other thing I thought about is like, you talk about the 10%, you could have a bomb movie or a dope movie, but if the ending is bad,
yes,
you chalk the whole movie up to bad. Like, it was pretty dope, but the ending was stupid. Yes. The whole movie's stupid.
My whole life with your mom.
Yeah, right. Every movie mom watches has to end where they walk away holding hands in love with no one hurt, no one sad. Everyone has to be happy, from the villain to the bad guy to the criminal. Everyone has to go on with life perfectly. Yeah, mom's favorite line. Yeah, the movie was really, really slow. It was kind of boring, but the ending was really good.
It was really good. Yeah. You should watch it.
Someone watched the whole hour-and-a-half movie for the last 10 minutes. I don't think so.
That's an absolute fact. Perfect. That's the 10%.
All right, so there. Fail fast, master the process, and win the day.
Win the day.
Sweet. Well, as Marshawn Lynch said,
go take care of y'all mentals. Go take care of y'all mentals.
Give us a manage our mentals moment or action step for this week and how one thing we can do to move forward.
This is an action step for this whole process of resilient, our series of 3. Energy is life. Okay. Energy is life. When you bring energy to your daughter who's trying to cook or trying to sleep in their own bed or trying to read a book, that energy has to be positive because she's already coming with negative energy and you have to fight the energy war. Because if you just get on her once, you both crash. Now, here's what I want you to think about is we're talking about neuronal flow, right? Neurons that fire together, right? They wire together. They become one. And now it's as a strand. Now it's a 3-fold cord that's not easily broken. Now you've got this huge constellation where people can do stuff like Jordan's moves and stuff like that. We talk about Tiger Woods' golf swings. Like, they've mastered those constellation of neurons so much that they fire together, or neurons that wire together, fire together. Where energy goes, the mind flows. We all talk about we want to be in a flow state where you're just on your game. Golf game where you just hit shot after shot after shot. There's zero thinking. You've done these processes so many times that you've literally checked out and you're just loving the process. Like, man, this is a beautiful day. Like, I can't believe it. I'm not even pitting out. Like, oh man, if I could have planned the day, boom, crushed another shot. You're just kind of in this zone. The reason is your energy's positive and you're in flow state. People ask this all the time. Like, how do I get in flow state? Your energy is positive. And because you're not stressing about anything, that energy flows, right? So where energy goes, your mind flows. The flow state is super smooth. When we're in a flow state, we often can't describe that process. And then we just go, I don't know, man. I don't even know. Like, I was just on point. Mm-hmm. And then it's like, how would you, bro, if I knew, I would tell you. Okay. That's because your energy was 100% zoned in and your muscle memory or your neuronal memory took over. So our manage your mentals moment is pay super good close attention to your energy, because energy is life.
Love it. Before we leave you and continue with your morning, afternoon, or evening, we just want to remind you there are 2 times to be great: when you feel like it and when you don't. Tune in next week as we talk about resilient parenting.
Let's
We're gonna
go.
stay on the resilient vibe. Obviously, you see the mugs, you see the shirt. Unfortunately, COVID canceled Resilient Men's Conference this year.
Yes.
But normally, local Sioux City, we have a Resilient Men's Conference every June on Father's Day weekend.
Correct.
But we'll continue with parenting, talking about how to be a great parent, some tips and tricks on how to be a good parent or a better parent. If we talked about anything today that spoke to you on any level, leave us a review on any platform that you listen to the podcast on. That helps the show continue. And if you're watching on YouTube, give us a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and ring that bell. And then leave us a comment or thought or question regarding anything we've talked about today. We'd like to hop into that and join with you in any comments that you may post on that. Other than that, we love you. Renew your perspective, move towards uncertainty, and find what's awesome about that in every situation. We love you.
Peace.
I had to realize what's inside of me. For all of the people that lied to me. For all of the people that said I would fall off. Oh, boy, what a time to be alive. I wrote this for everyone, feel like they counted out. You need to look in the mirror and tell yourself it's time to be who I am now. Greatness.